One, yay! It's happy hour. It's going to be a little different tonight. So, oh, let me take a drink because that's bad luck. Mm. Hi, Larry Munson. So it's going to be a little bit different tonight. Lamar's wife, Carla, tonight is her company's big annual awards dinner and presentation. And obviously, Carla wanted Lamar to be with her for that. And Bob just felt like going out to dinner. So it's me and Heather, and we're going to be joined by two very exciting, well, three if you count the cat, three very exciting, four if you count Heather's new lizard, very exciting guests. There he is. Hey, Frank. She saw like what a sexy lifestyle it was being a reptile caretaker by watching me give the thing baths. So we're going to be joined by our friend, comedian and actress Nicole Birch, who she's been popping into happy hours since 2020 when the lockdown started. We're huge fans and we adore her. So she's going to pop in. I think Kevin's going to stick his head in. And Karamia came home today for a handful of doctor's appointments and cut all of the hair off. So, and here's Tiberius, the bald gremlin. So let me just say cheers to everybody and welcome, welcome, welcome. Heather, I'm going to try this light one more time. Talk.
Okay. Karamia really lives in my dream because as much as I love my hair, I have always wondered could I pull off the completely shaved off look? I don't think I could. I don't think I have the skull for it, but
Well, Karamia decided to get a wolf cut, which, it looks so super cute, but Karamia has had long, straight, parted in the middle hair since um, hair started to grow on that child's head. And a lot of that was because of dance. You have to have, I mean, you just are limited to what you can do to your hair when you're on a serious competition dance program situation. But the thing that tripped me out, like I think my girls look alike, but they're so different in their aesthetic. I mean, when Caramel was walking up the driveway today, Kevin went, "Whoa, that's short." I thought it was Olivia because Olivia decided to see what life would be like with a buzz cut and took a pair of clippers to her head and took all of her hair off and then dyed it jet black. And it looks amazing. Like it looks
it
super
does.
cute,
I
but it's a shock. Yeah, it's a shock. Hi, Regina. Hi, Erica. Hi, Tammy Johnson and Mary Hayes Ickert and Tiga K. Hi, Amy Scoggins and Tommy Phillips. Lamar's with his wife. Tommy, tonight was her big work awards dinner situation, and we wanted to make sure that Carla would be able to, or Lamar would be able to go with Carla. Say hi, Kev.
Hello.
He's walking around today on his walking cast thingy.
Was.
Yeah. Um, we've got a bunch of Bob and Sherry coloring books, right, Heather?
Yep, we
Every
got
entry.
10 of them. Every comment is an entry. So good luck. Keep
Let me
commenting
see
away.
one of those.
Here you go. So, hi, Crystal and Susan and Pam and Jill and all these people are saying hi to you, my love. You should
Hi.
say hi to the
Hi
ladies.
back.
Say hi,
Hi,
ladies.
ladies.
My cat has decided this is where she is going to take her nap, which is directly on my
Keyboard?
computer. Yeah, well,
Yeah.
not the keyboard, thankfully, but directly on the side of my computer. So that's not inconvenient at all.
Heather, we're getting you're very faint. Can you crank your volume up at anything?
Oh,
Barry Bray says, "Hey, go dogs."
it's
Have
probably
The
because
dogs.
this is over here.
oh, there we go, where the microphone is.
Yep.
Um, I would love to color Bob some red pants. Well, you will get a chance in the It's Always Something coloring book. Yes, you will. So, I posted something on my Threads account, but I haven't really talked about my daughter Olivia was in a car accident, and um, I'm just really thankful that she was not hurt. The car completely destroyed. And the insurance adjuster called me this afternoon, and He said, "Hi, my name is Ryan, blah, blah, blah. I want to begin by asking, how is your daughter? Because I just got back from looking at the car." And I said, "Well, thank you, airbags, because she walked away. Like, she's rude. I mean, she took an airbag to the face, the chest, everything. She really shook up, really shook up." So, Olivia, I mean, if you're a regular listener, you know that Olivia was really late to drive. She was so anxious about driving that she just didn't want to. And so did not even get a permit till college. So she's only been driving for a few years. And you know that you're going to have something, right? But that phone call, man, you do not want that phone call. And I was so glad when we were in the car together and coming back from a doctor's appointment, and I hit accept and I heard, "I was in a car accident." But the fact that it was my child telling me that she was in a car accident, not the police, I was immediately like, "Okay, you were in a car accident, but you're talking, so everything's probably fine, or it will be fine eventually, someday, soon." But yeah, it was a lot.
I was thinking, wow, I thought this would have happened about a year ago.
I think we all did. And the insurance adjuster said to me, he said, "I've rear-ended 3 cars in my life, and it changed the way I drive. The first one changed the way I drive. Like, I am so much more careful now than I ever was, because the sound, the impact, the airbag, the damage, like, totaled." But I have to say, this car,
Wait, hold on. He's done that 3 times, and the first one changed the way he drives. Then
well,
how come he did it 2 more times?
the second 2 were not his fault. It was chain reaction. He got pushed, like a whole bunch of cars got pushed.
Okay.
So Olivia was driving a 10-year-old Honda, and shout out to that 10-year-old Honda, because that girl walked away from that wreck. So yeah.
Nicole is down waiting, so let me pull her up.
Yeah, get her. Oh, Christy, you have 14-year-old girl boy twins and you're petrified for them to start driving? You betcha. Hey, Nicole, how are you?
Your mic is muted.
Hey.
Oh, there we go.
Oh,
Girl, you look so
sorry.
glamorous. I can't even look at you.
Thank you. Oh my gosh, that story. I'm so sorry.
You're a mom, so your day. This is my husband, Kevin, by the way,
Hi,
Nicole.
Kevin. Hi, nice
Howdy.
to meet you.
Nice
Yeah,
to meet
I
you.
thought of you. I thought of you this morning. I'm like, oh, Nicole thinks that like diapers and teething and bad attitudes are rough. You would do anything to go back to those days once
yeah,
they start driving, I swear.
I know. I'm not excited for any of that. I mean, I'm already talking about not giving her a phone until she's 18, or at least when she can't do social media on. So, like, even thinking about driving, which my dad started teaching us to drive at an early age because like they were always in logistics and stuff, and his whole thing was like defensive driving, defensive driving, defensive driving. But he put that in you so much that you're like, well, how crazy are people on the road? And then you get in your first accident and you're like, oh, this is what it's like.
So crazy. Like, the insurance adjuster who called me today, he said, he goes, "Yeah, I'm just real thankful that your daughter's okay. We've had like 3 fatalities here in the last couple weeks. Like, a tractor trailer ran a traffic light and took somebody out." It's Even if, like, this is what it's so hard to explain to your kids, and it was probably really hard to explain to us, right? It's not you I don't trust. It's
Right.
not you I think can't handle it.
Right.
It's just that once you put that blinker on and emerge into the road, you're in like a popcorn machine of crazy and poor attitudes and rage and distraction. It's not you, it's everybody else.
Well, no, in Olivia's case, I'd feel comfortable telling her that some of it's her.
Some of it's her. She didn't get a ticket, so thank God, like, we weren't, breaking any laws. No speeding, no phone, no nothing. So yeah.
Well, I'm just so curious. Like, that's interesting that you said that she had always had like a fear that she'd been putting it off since college and stuff. That's interesting.
Yeah, she just was phobic about it. And now her little sister, that girl couldn't, that girl wanted to go to the DMV at 1 minute after midnight on her birthday. How old did you have to be when you were a kid to get a learner's permit?
I think 15. I think
Yeah,
15.
that's like,
Yeah. Yeah.
and to me, Nicole, because I'm the kind of mom, I was like, 15, are we really ready for big girl pants? Like, I just was not at
No,
all.
no. And I know each kid's different. But I'm also like, once you start doing certain things, like even small things, like once girls start shaving their legs, like you can't go back. Like you
Yeah.
lose part of that innocence, and now you're like thrown into the adult world. But with driving, it's like you're also thrown into the adult world with other adults on the road. That's crazy.
Who are just, very often terrible. Like
Yeah.
people, I mean, look at the way people act on airplanes now.
Yeah.
Like, it's just, folks, Roadhouse was just a movie. Like, we don't have to act it out in every public space. We do not need to carry on like this. So, yeah, I'm very, very, every day, like each of us, I'm a social worker, so I really do believe that each of us has the capacity to always grow and change and be better, but also each of us is one shit piece of luck away from utter chaos.
Yeah.
And I was glad that when the chaos brush hit me yesterday, it let me off super easy. Yeah. So
Oof.
let's hear about your mom journey these days.
Oh, well, that's interesting. I'll share something that I can't talk too much about because, but I feel like I'm supposed to tell you this. So my daughter had an accident in October, and I can't talk a lot about it. But we got also very lucky, and ER visits and firemen and all the stuff, rushed to the emergency room. And it does something to you as a mom where my therapist said it perfectly. She goes, it's like you touch the void. There's like a darkness and you touched it. And so that's going to take for you as the mom and the parents a minute to like recalibrate.
Yeah.
Like, and I'm so sorry that happened.
Well, and you think back on your own, like we were telling Olivia, Kevin and I were telling Olivia, because we have a big family, big blended family. We were like, well, Andrew did this and Maggie did that. And like all the other kids, your cousins, like all of us, when I was Olivia's age, I got T-boned in a vintage VW Bug. Those are not designed to keep you alive, my queen. They are not designed to keep you alive, not the old vintage ones. And I spent the rest of that night sitting on a gurney in the ER getting glass picked out of my head with tweezers. But because I was like 19, I was like, and I'm like, oh, what an adventure. Meanwhile, my grandmother, who's raising me, I don't realize she is on her knees beseeching the Virgin to spare me because she didn't know, this was like before you could just shoot a text. Like everything's okay. So yeah, I mean, you look at some of the crazy, reckless, wild ass things that you did and got away with.
So glad there weren't cell phones. I mean, we had cell phones, but like you had to it was 10 cents a text, so like you weren't taking pictures and posting videos, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Just the crazy stuff that we used to do. Now, how's she doing with it mentally afterwards?
She was really a mess for the first 36 hours. When I talked to her a little bit ago, she had slept last night. She's not quite reliving it every few minutes, but she doesn't want to drive. And I'm okay. I'm okay with that. Eventually, she'll have to get back. But here's the other thing. Like, when I was a teenager, we didn't have Uber.
Yeah.
You didn't have a smartphone either.
We didn't have if you didn't have a vehicle, and you didn't live in a place with public mass transit, you were kind of SOL.
Right.
But
I think that even kids, not only are like they physically resistant or resilient, they're also emotionally more resilient. So like I'm hoping for her and for you guys that she'll like come back. I'm lucky my daughter doesn't remember it because she was knocked out. So she doesn't remember any of it. So she just woke up one day and was like, wow, my mom's nuts now. She's not letting me go pee by myself. Like, what is this lady's issue?
Oh, this is such a, I mean, we have to find that silver lining. And
Yeah.
this is such a good break for you because she just woke up one day and you were nuts.
Yeah.
And now you can stay nuts and just get more nuts in time. And there's no like, oh my God, mom, when did this happen? As far as she knows, her mother's insane.
Yeah. Which is great, which is fine with me. I used to be the mom that was like, oh, you fell down, shake it off, dust it off, put some dirt on it. And I immediately became this mom that was like, do you need me to hold your hand to the refrigerator? Like, what do we need to do? And I'm coming out of that, but there is like something with stuff like that with your kids where you're like, oh, I know because I'm older now how fragile stuff is. Where she
Yeah.
again is like Teflon, where she's like, I don't even know what you're talking about. You know, we're at doctor's offices and they're like asking her questions. She's like, I don't remember. I don't know what you're talking about. I was like, oh, great. So
And you know what's funny is that like all the cliches are so true. No one can tell you these things. Like they can tell you and you can nod your head and listen and think to yourself, that's good to know. I'm going to try to remember that. But it's like everything else in life, no one can tell you what your first heartbreak is going to be like. No one can tell you what not getting that job that you wanted, what falling in love, and no one can tell you what a lunatic you can become as a
yeah,
parent.
yeah, yeah. I'm nuts. I almost killed a 6-year-old on the playground for pushing her the other day. Who thought that? Who thought I was going to kill a 6-year-old? You know what I mean?
Did you feel that rage?
I was so angry, and I was like, I need to walk away. I am 40 years old. I cannot beat up a 6-year-old.
You know what's funny though is that like there's one part of you that's like, oh kids, they'll be kids. And then when it's your kid, you're like, that's Damien from The Omen, that's the devil, that's a bad seed.
Yeah, I can
That kid
body
is despicable.
Yeah, I can body check him real quick. You know what I mean? Yeah.
There's a meme, Nicole, that I laughed at so hard, and it's basically goes like this. No one can hold a grudge like a mom. Like, okay, I promise you, in 20 years, your daughter could go, remember that kid, Tyler, that used to bully me on the playground? I ran into him tonight. He's doing really well. And you're going to be like, that kid's a shit and I hate him.
Okay, yeah.
You're never going to let it go. You're never going to let it go.
No, that's absolutely true with kids. I mean, she's changed everything. She's changed so many of things that I liked about my personality before, where I'm like, I'm very calm, I'm very grounded. I can't be embarrassed. I came from a long line of like, my dad was always trying to embarrass us kids, like paying for dinner with a Blockbuster card. That was the funniest thing you could do. So like we grew up like that. I could never be embarrassed. And then having a temper tantrum, your child having a temper tantrum in the middle of a crowded place where you're like completely helpless and overwhelmed. And I'm like, oh, this is embarrassment.
Yeah.
How do I get out of the situation? Yeah.
And the thing about that, like we all know that sometimes kids just melt down. So why
Yeah.
are you so judgy, Walmart Karen? Like your
Yeah.
kids never did that. The
Yeah.
only people that are allowed to cop a really judgmental attitude because karma's gonna bitch slap them are people that don't have kids yet.
Yeah.
Yet.
Yeah.
And then they'll get some. Yeah.
Yeah, especially on planes. My thing with that is the reason my daughter is 4 years old, and I think by the time she was 3, she's really good on planes. But we had to go through 6 flights where she was awful. And so when people see a kid screaming, it's like, well, how do you think that they're going to get good at being on planes? Like you have to expose them. You have to give them the chance to expose them to a situation where you can teach them to like self-soothe and to calm down and to breathe. And now she loves flying. But there's, other 3-year-olds that are still freaking out because it's their first flight. So I think, when people are like, kids shouldn't be on public transportation, I'm like,
Oh, that crowd. The kids shouldn't. Kids shouldn't be on planes. Kids shouldn't be on public transit. Kids shouldn't be in restaurants. Kids shouldn't be in stores. For a nation that professes to just love children, what the
yeah,
hell, folks? Did you want to like create like a national park somewhere in rural Montana and we'll just drop them off there the minute we cut the cord and
yeah,
fetch them again when they can speak and drive? Yeah.
exactly,
Like,
exactly.
come
Yeah.
on. So tell us, you have a new
Yes. Yeah. So
comedy special.
new comedy special called Mama Drama. It comes out this Tuesday, March 5th on Amazon and Apple TV. It's basically the story, and I've shared it with you and Bob and Heather before, but how I got pregnant. I got pregnant with a friend from one night together. And now we're co-parenting. Well, when I did the special, it was a 3-year-old. Now she's 4. And kind of that journey, and then going back into the world and dating, and then meeting my now boyfriend slash fiance.
Oh, yes.
Yeah. So the journey that was, in the roller coaster, the delivery, which was insane. And yeah, it was probably my best, because my last special was just about one date I went on this one time, and it was a crazy story. This is more of like a 4-year amount
Like,
of time.
yeah.
And it's full circle. And like the moms that have that were in the audience, especially the single moms, I think it really resonated with, which was interesting, because I didn't think it would really resonate with the single moms as much as like the delivery stuff. And that when you have sleep deprivation, I tell a story about how I'm in my apartment. I can't find the baby. I'm by myself. I'm a single mom. I haven't slept in 4 days. Now, I'm on
Did
the
you lose the baby in the actual apartment?
lost the baby. So I'm on this is just a little bit of the special, I'm giving it away, but I'm on the 3rd floor of an apartment, and then the cars are in the subterranean garage below. So it's 4 flights of stairs, right? So I have a panic attack thinking I've left her in the car. And we all know those stories about the car, right? So I'm freaking out. So I go downstairs, check my Jeep. She's not in there. Breathe a sigh of relief, go back upstairs, look again. She's not, I don't see her anywhere. I'm freaking out. I go up and down the flights of stairs 4 times. So 4 flights of stairs, 4 times. By the way, we had a working elevator, but I haven't slept in 4 days. So I'm losing my mind, right? I get up, I call my mom. I'm like, Mom, I can't find the baby. I can't. She's like, what do you mean you can't find the baby? I was like, I don't know where the baby is. And like, I'm screaming, my mom's screaming. She's like, what do you mean? Do we have to call the police? Like, what's going on? We're like, oh my God, I'm afraid. I was like, I can't find her anywhere. I haven't slept in 4 days. I don't know what's going on. And then we hear Everly coo. We hear her coo, the happiest little baby coo. And I go, oh, I mean, I was checking the freezer, the dog bed. I was checking everything. And my mom goes, where was she? She was strapped to my chest in a baby.
You had gone up and down.
Up and down, up and down. Didn't look down. Not once. She was only like 2 months old, so she was like really snug. And I'm like, my mom's like, you need to get some sleep, girl. Cause this is, I mean, I think I'd gotten, it was 6 hours of sleep in 4 days.
Oh, I remember those days.
It was bad. It was bad. It was bad. And so like the fact that I did that, thought I lost the baby, and she was strapped to my chest the whole time. Like insane. Insane.
Look at the comments though. Look at what Alicia Kurzer said. She said, I lost my 4-year-old due to sleep deprivation. She was in the bathtub. I started the bath and put her in it, and then couldn't remember where she was. Like that, we all have, I don't like, call it whatever you believe, a guardian angel. We all have some magical force field of protection. When you think about, again, like there is nothing like day after day after day of no sleep to make you absolutely nuts.
Crazy. Well, just random. And part of me thought it was hormones. And you know, I know you're still balancing out after you have a baby for sure. But I'm like, oh, when I would get 6 hours sleep during that first like 3-month period, I felt so well rested and grounded. But then that next night when you're getting 2 hours, I would just stand in the grocery store just bawling my eyes out at checkout. No, I had no reason to be crying, just weeping. And you're going, oh, I remember they're like, why would somebody leave a baby in a hot car? And I'm like, I totally, after having a kid, and not to excuse that or anything, because I don't also think any parents doing that intentionally, but you're kind of like checked out. Like your brain has to like unhinge every now and then, you know what I mean? Like, or disconnect.
Human beings, that's why sleep deprivation is a torture interrogation technique. Human beings, I mean, human beings have to have sleep. When my girls were, so my oldest daughter was 2 when my second daughter was born. And I didn't have maternity leave with either of my girls. Like I work in radio. So I literally had the baby, dusted it off, and was back on the air. Literally.
Oh my
Like
God.
it was so deranged. So my little one had colic. That's a good time. Where's
Oh
all my colic parents? What? Whoa, that's a
no.
good time. So I am recovering from a C-section. I'm working with a weekend between giving birth and returning to work. I had the weekend to get myself together. I've got a 2-year-old who is Count Dracula. The child didn't sleep until middle school, like literally did not sleep until middle school, and would get up in the middle of the night and go host her own cooking shows in the kitchen with like sharp knives. It was terrifying, right? And then the little one had colic. And at night, like colic babies, they can tell time. They're like cats. They know when it's time to eat, they know it's time to scream. That child would cry and scream inconsolably for a couple of hours. And after the third day of it, the 2-year-old would just burst into tears too. And I just went, I guess that's who we are now. And I would burst into tears, and the three of us would sit and cry.
Oh my gosh.
On. And then I would get the baby would finally stop crying, and I'd get my 2-year-old to bed, and I'd nurse the little one back into sleep, and then I would sleep for 90 minutes or so before it was time to feed again. Before it
Oh
was
my
time to
God.
feed again.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No,
And then
and
I would get up and go to work in the morning in a radio station where some jackweed middle manager would say something to me like, "Are
oh
you telling me you didn't watch the People's Choice Awards last night? Are you telling me you want to die without telling me you don't want to be murdered?" Like, no, I didn't watch the People's Choice Awards, you bag of dicks. Oh
man.
my God, I'm barely alive. Here's my choice for you people. Like, it was crazy. So yes,
I
girl.
cannot believe you went back to work that fast. That is, and the thing I will say about breastfeeding, like, when people say it's the best thing for it is sure, like, chemically for sure. But at a certain point, I had like 4 lactation specialists. I wanted to try so hard, but and along with my mother, so I think it might be genetic, we did not have supply. So I would be like, well, I just have to pump more, which means you're pumping, you're feeding, you're pumping, you're feeding, you're pumping. So you're doing like every 90 minutes, you're doing something.
Yeah.
And so when he thought that you could watch the People Choice Awards, like what, that's a dude. That's a dude who's never, or somebody, even if, a lot of moms on, somebody will post, that they're bottle feeding their baby, and the women that are like, breast milk is better. It's
Breast
like,
is
listen, first of
best.
all, you have no idea. And also at a certain point, like I was done at 4 months against my will. Like I had no say in the
Yeah.
matter. But people don't understand the reason they created formula in the first place was because 10% of women didn't have full production or couldn't breastfeed. Like there's a reason why formula is out there. And because like even the rich people had wet nurses, right? So it's like
Well,
that's not what it was.
that's the other thing, like in those debates on social media about breast is best and what did women do in the olden days? Oh, they did a couple of things. They had a wet nurse.
Mhm,
They had someone else in the village that had an ample supply and could nurse. They
mhm.
dipped a piece of cloth in sugar water and gave that to the baby.
Yeah,
Like, show me that you've never read a book,
yeah.
Cletus,
There's
because yes, this has long been the fact of life.
Yeah, I remember I was struggling. I was like, she was 2 months old, and I was like, we're already doing half and half, like formula and breastfeed because I'm not giving her enough. And my cousin who had an extra freezer full of bags because she was producing so much. She comes over and she goes, "Oh, well, while you're staying here," because I was visiting my mom. She goes, "While you're staying here, here's some bags for you." And I looked at them and I go, "What are those for?" And she goes, "Oh, for your extra milk." And I was like, what? What extra milk, dude? I've never made extra. Like that's not a thing. I remember looking at them and I was like, "Oh, that's crazy." And then I watched a Netflix special called Unwell. It's a documentary. And one of the episodes talks about this woman who had, I don't, maybe somebody can comment if you know what it's called, but when somebody has like an extreme oversupply, it starts with an H, it's like hyper something. But like she had, those like meat freezers in your garage or something, that was full. She had another stand-up fridge that was just filled with breast milk. I think she would produce like 6 gallons a day.
Oh
So
my God.
was donating them to hospitals for adopted babies.
Yeah.
or women who couldn't produce. So she was doing everything right. But one of the scenes, her husband's making himself a bowl of cereal, and he goes, "Yeah," and he takes a picture of breast milk, and he goes, "Sometimes we use it on our cereal too." And I was like, "Oh my God, you're getting the whole thing." I was like, "This is nuts." It was
Well-
so much breast milk that I was like, "This is making me angry," but I'm happy for her, but making me angry. Yeah.
Well, so Kevin's daughter Maggie had identical twin boys, and twins are often, it's a risky pregnancy, and they were premature, so they were in the NICU for a while before they could come home, and then they had to have fortified feedings, which meant that Maggie would nurse and then pump, and then they would have to add formula to the breast milk, and each baby was on a different amount. So her husband Alan, so these two are like the ninjas of parenting. They
Yeah.
are such a great team. You would open their refrigerator and it looked like a laboratory refrigerator, everything labeled and organized. But my daughter Maggie did not, if she wasn't nursing, she was pumping. If she wasn't pumping, she was nursing.
Yeah.
It was
They
crazy.
got so good they had another kid,
Yeah.
Yeah.
They-
under 2 years old.
Yeah.
She's still making milk.
They have two 2-year-old twin boys and a 9-month-old boy that just pulled himself to standing today.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Wow.
I'm gonna have it optioned as a horror movie, like 3 Under 3, because it's so much. Like, you cannot believe how insane. They are the most beautiful, silly, wonderful, adorable children, but they wake up before 6 a.m. and they start talking, and they keep on talking and walking and grabbing things and getting into stuff until they collapse at like 7:30.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Oh, and they're both handfuls. Oof. Oof. Yeah. I think a lot of people have been, there's like a TikTok trend where it's like, oh, the second kid's always the hardest. And I was like, well, then I'm done. I can't have any more because she was already so hard and so strong willed. And I remember, I don't know if you were like this, but I could play by myself for hours in my room. I would have things like a dollhouse or a
Mhm.
Barbie. I could play by myself for hours. My kid cannot. She wants to show me everything. She wants to have a conversation about it. She wants my input all day, every day. And I was like, if I had another one of those, I wouldn't have time to work. Like that would give all my attention. You know what I mean?
Well, all the talking, I like Kevin can tune, like he's great at tuning stuff out, which is probably why we're together all these many years. But he's really good. Like we can be in the car and he can be in his own private Idaho. Like he's just living his best life inside his head. I can't tune anything out. If a
Yeah.
child is talking, that's all I can hear.
Yeah.
So having like my daughter Olivia, walked, and she was walking at 10 months and speaking in complete paragraphs, like a demon, like a small demon, like a blonde demon baby. Like I would flip holy water on her, like, you're a
And
baby, sit down, sit down and stop talking, right? They talked my freaking head off, girl. So no, you're right. You're very smart. When you get one that never has an unexpressed thought,
yeah, done. Gotta stop. Gotta stop there.
so I have a question for you. And
Yes.
please tell us if it's like, oh, that's just too personal. I can't go there.
I don't think
So
that's ever happened.
in Mama Drama, your new special,
Yes.
you talk about how a friend came over one night, you ended up with a baby.
Yeah.
And you guys were just friends, dear friends, obviously. And clearly he's a really good human because he's your friend and co-parent.
Right.
When you were pregnant and then you had her, did you have like any confusing feelings or
No.
like,
Yeah, so we get this question. Both of us get this question a lot.
Wait, was he picked, or was it a kind of, a
No.
buzz
It
kind of
was
thing?
we weren't, I'll be honest, we just weren't careful enough is what it was. And I did not want kids. Well, not that I didn't want kids. I did not want to be a single mom. That was like, but then my therapist is like, sometimes we create what we fear most. And I'm like, okay, great.
that's my therapy is just so much. All that truth coming at you is really uncomfortable.
Well, because like I was raised by a single mom and I saw how hard it was and everything
Yeah.
she had to sacrifice and do. And she was working all the time, man. I couldn't do sports. I couldn't do dance. I couldn't do any of that stuff. I would do it for like a year. And then she was like, I have to go to work in order to pay for this. So how do we do this? You know?
Yeah, so
I
true.
didn't want to do that. So, and obviously we should have absolutely been more careful. Like there's no question about that. But we were he was like 42 and I was 36, or he was 40 and I was 36. And we were the only single people in our friend group. Everybody else was together. And him and I would flirt occasionally. We'd known each other for 7 years. We always hung out. We'd have lunches and just like talk about what dating's like. And then we were both going through a breakup and he called to check on me and I was like in a bad way. And he goes, well, I'm going to come over and bring dinner and make you feel better. And so one thing led to another. It was not the whirlwind romance. Heather's dying. Okay. It was not,
It's
it
just
was
it's,
not,
like honestly, you
you like, this is a great
it's so
TV show.
real.
It's so real. And when I say, this is another reason why I never had a second thought. And we've never had a conversation where it's like, should we try? Not once. He triggers things in me. I trigger things in him that it's just not, it's not sustainable. But that night was not a whirlwind romance. I had 2 bottles of Chardonnay. He had 2 Coors Lights. We are on very different drunken paths. You know what I mean? He was absolutely sober. And I was like, woo! And he was like, oh my God, please don't throw up on me. Please do not throw up. So like, that's where I was. And the next day, I called him and I go, hey, so about last night, that was not, and he goes, no, that was not. I was like, okay, we should never do that again. And he goes, no, let's never do that again. And how do you feel about like keeping it between us? And I was like, I don't want to tell anybody. So we're like, okay, let's make a pact. We will never tell anyone ever that Nicole and Craig have had sex. Never. No one's ever going to find out. And then 3 weeks later, I was late and I took a test and I was like, we might have to tell a few people. So, and I talk about like, he was way less excited than I was. Something kicked in me. I don't know if it was hormones, but I was like, look, I'm 36, almost 37. I've had the best year of my life. I feel like if I don't go through with this, I'm spitting in the face of the universe. And he was acting, so I like took to it pretty quickly. I was like learning how to use a breast pump and installing a car seat. He was having a midlife crisis. He got a brand new BMW and 3 tattoos. So like he went the other way. And I even in the special, I talk about his tattoos and I'm like, like they're all really sad. Like he was going through like it was like a clown and it's crying. One says "eat the rich," which is something like people say, and then the rest of them were oh my gosh, the Debbie Downer, great musician, but the Smiths. You guys know the Smiths, right? So
Oh my God, he got a Smith's tattoo.
Oh, you think he got one? Girl, he got more than one. They're all
Such a cry for help. Such an obvious cry for help.
I was like, every appointment we'd go to, I'd see him, he'd have a fresh tattoo, and it would be like, oh, let the lilies burn on the field or something like that. Like, dude, are you okay? What's going on, man? And he's like, no, it's a good song. And I'm like, yikes, bro. So I will say this, and I'll say this because Bradley Cooper just came out. It just came out today that he said this. Bradley Cooper's daughter, I think his daughter's like, six, right?
6, yeah.
And so he just came out and said when she was first born, I was like, not that in love with her. Like, I knew that I would take care of her. I'd be responsible and all that stuff. But when people talk about, oh, I would kill for my kid or I would die for my kid, he goes, I did not feel that way. He didn't feel that way for 8 months. Craig was the same way. And he did not feel that way for 3.5 years. So those 3.5 years for me were very difficult.
Sure. Yeah, that's hard.
It's still fairly difficult, but I'm glad he was honest and I'm glad he would tell me. I mean, he didn't have to tell me as much as he told me, but I'm glad he was at least honest about it. And then he is kind of he's a curmudgeon, and I'm like an eternal optimist and have vision boards and stuff. And his favorite quote, which is also a tattoo, is a Buddhist phrase, that says, "All of life is suffering." So, so like when people are like, "Did you guys want to date?" I'm like, "No, bro, no."
Not so
He-
much.
I was reading Goodnight Moon. He was reading like he'd come over for like 3 hours a week, and so I could take a nap. And I'm like, what book is he reading in there in the living room? And I'd go out there. He'd be reading like Frederick Douglass, The Emancipation of an American Slave. And I'm like, she's 2 weeks old. What are you talking about? Please don't read to her about plantations right now. Okay. I get that like American history is important, but like she's 2 weeks old. So like when she would come home, I felt like I had to give her a palate cleanse because she'd be like, like kind of this Debbie Downer stuff. And so one day he tells me, this is also in the special, but one day he tells me, oh, Everly's new favorite song when she's with me on the weekend is it's a Beach Boy song. And the look on my face, Sheri, I was like, what? Because the Beach Boys are very peppy and very like go lucky. And, I was like,
Unless it's Pet Sounds.
wait. So I go,
My
well,
room.
oh my God, I love the Beach Boys. Which one is it? Is it Help Me Rhonda or Kokomo? I love Kokomo, or Good Vibrations. And he goes, no, it's a song called In My Room. And I go, you know what? I'm not familiar with that. So I went home and I listened to it. It sounds like a death march. It was written by Brian Wilson when he had agoraphobia and wouldn't leave his house. So he wrote a song called In My Room. And now my kid comes home and she's singing it all day long. And I'm like, what is happening? It's
You
great.
know what? So, okay, so here's something that I really believe is that there's only one doorway through which each of us can enter the world.
Yeah.
There's just that one doorway, and it's timed to the millisecond because that egg was your daughter.
Yeah.
And the door was opening, and the
Mhm.
only way to get that door open and get her into the world was to bring two people together who would
That's
not be together. And
Yeah.
so we needed to call on our good friends at Kendall Jackson to supply 2 bottles of Chardonnay so that would help open the door.
Jackson. It was Kendall Jackson.
Wasn't KJ? Wasn't really. So yeah, like that is something I am really, really tight with Kevin's first wife, the mother of his 4 children. She's like my sister. I love her so much. And we talk about how, like, you have no idea, even sitting here right now, none of us have no idea what's coming next, right?
Yeah.
But certain things feel like, oh, that was supposed to happen. Because even as you're like strapping her to your chest and then losing her, right?
Yeah.
You probably look at her now and think, I was thinking I was going to have a life without you.
Yeah.
What was that?
Yeah. And oh my gosh, some people ask me like, do you think it was a mistake? If you could go back, I wouldn't go back. I wouldn't change anything. I've never resented her. And I will say this, and I always say this, having a kid is so expensive. I went from like 6 figures to food stamps, thanks to the pandemic. So,
Yeah.
and that's not something and I hate to admit that, but no, like there was no work during the pandemic. I couldn't tour. I couldn't even go back to a bartending job. I couldn't even get any writing gigs because nobody was hiring me. And then the people it was just at the 6-month point, I was like, oh, I thought I had a handle on this and I could do it. And now I have to ask for help. And wasn't for very long, but coming out of that, it had taught me humility. It had taught me a lot leaning into gratitude and kind of coming out of that and like figuring out different ways to come out of that. And so I'm really glad that we did.
How old is she now?
She's 4.5. So I look at that and I think, man, I had a European tour lined up that was going to start May of 2020. Not obviously.
Oh,
And by the way, that tour, I had an au pair that they were going to pay for. So I could have taken her with me. And for 4 months, I was like, I'm set. Single motherhood is going to be a breeze compared to what some people
Yeah.
have to go through. And then it was like, hey, here's a global pandemic. And her dad only has her like 5-10% of the time. And there's no money coming in. There's none. So, and at the time before when I got pregnant, I think I was making over 6 figures. And so it was like
To zero.
to
Yeah.
zero. And so I think that has taught me a lot. I also don't put a lot of value on money the way I used to, where it's like, I got to grind, I got to get this. I'm kind of like, we're always going to be okay. We're going to lean into gratitude. I'm always going to provide for you. You're always going to be safe. Mommy always knows what is in your best interest, and I'm going to follow through with that. But I also look back and the life I thought I was going to live, like if you're going to be this Chelsea handler and you're always a single and you're always
Yeah.
like, screw them kids, and which is great. And that's a lot of female comedian shtick, and I get it. And that's what I wanted. I now have, in an ego-centric, career-driven way, I have a whole different platform now. I'm less raunchy. I tell more detailed stories that are more specific to other people. I'm like, would I have been telling dating stories in my 60s? Like, hey, I'm still dating on Tinder. It's still rough out for a girl. And it's like, well, so no. And so she has changed my life in every facet, both personally, emotionally, but also career-wise, where it's like, oh, this is a way better special than I had. And not that I love what I did in 2020, but this is a professional, well put together, well curated, well written, and like, because it's from my soul, that I think that it's also super relatable. And like, if you are a single mom and you are struggling, or if you're just a mom and you're not getting sleep and you're struggling, this too shall pass. It's like, but then also you, again, like you experienced this week, you will always bleed and die for your children. Like your whole life has changed forever at the same time.
But I mean, and I was a single mom for a long time, but I will tell you that even though like I live with my heart in my throat, because I have like not shocking that my daughter would have anxiety. I have anxiety, right? So I live with my heart in my throat in a way, but they are my favorite ladies to hang out with.
Yeah.
Like we have, as they get older, like the relationship changes. Like you always, at least I will always miss the days when I would strap one to my chest and then not be able to find her. You know, I'm always going to miss those days, right? But there's another thing that happens, and Kevin's kids are older than mine. So when we first got together, his youngest kids were just about to turn 10, and I had like a 3 and a 5-year-old. He had a 10-year-old. He had one just graduating high school, one in college. So his perspective on it was way different. And here's the thing, Nicole, you can't get there any sooner. Like I learned that. Other people can tell you, they can talk to you till their heads fall off, but you can't walk your path 1 minute sooner. Like you get there when you get there.
Right. Yeah. And I do think like the universe bringing Craig and I together, it's almost the perfect contrast for her, in the sense of like, he is kind of negative, but he's also she's a Virgo. And if you guys follow astrology, she is by the book. I need by the book. I need it done here. And I'm an Aquarius. So I'm like the hippie that's out to lunch. And she's like, what? Like, I need it like this. You fed me lunch 15 minutes late and I am starving and you're going to hear about it. Like, so I have
How
had
can
to.
an Aquarius parent a Virgo?
Yeah.
How are we going to do this?
Somebody said that when they found out my due date. All my friends that do astrology, when they found out my due date, they were like, "Oof, good luck, girl." And I'm like, "What? No." They're like, "Well, no, you're going to have to be really." Luckily, I'm already organized, but I have to be so organized and strict. Like, if I give her an inch, she takes a mile. And I mean, like, Mommy, can I have another juice box? You know what? Sure. It has like no sugar in it because it's not one of those sugary ones. I'm like, sure. That's all I had to give her. And she is like a tyrant the rest of the day. Well, I want this now. Well, I want this now. Well, I want this now. And I'm like, oh my lady.
Bob's like that. He's a Virgo. So I'm very familiar with this dynamic. Very familiar. Yeah.
And so I think she does not get away with anything with Craig, which is great because it keeps her like he's a Scorpio. So he's super structured and super his way or the highway.
The tattoos are making sense now.
Yeah, right? And yeah, so it's,
Hey, that's my style, and I'm an Aquarius.
He's an Aquarius.
I mean,
But,
I've had
yeah.
to lean into that. I also read this book because she's very strong-willed. I think it's How to Discipline a Strong-Willed Child or something like that, or How to Raise a Strong-Willed Child. And it's interesting because people are either ourselves, we're either compliant children, fence sitters, or defiant children. So the fence sitters are a little bit in the middle. I was a compliant child. I could,
Same.
my mom would take me to happy hour. I'd sit at the back bar, coloring book, didn't need anything. I was fine. Like, you pick up your room? Absolutely. Yes, ma'am. No problem. Very compliant child. Everly was more of a defiant child. Craig was a defiant child. So defiant children can raise defiant children because they know what that is. And defiant children raising compliant children, that's a breeze. Are you kidding me? A defiant parent raising a compliant child, that's easy. You just like, I rule the roost, right? And then with me though, it's so exhausting sometimes parenting her because I have to be so strict and so regimented which is not my personality. But I think we finally hit the pocket where it's like, okay, she knows she can't get away with murder. And she's kind of a kid I really like to hang out with. Like, I rush home to like hang out with her.
That's the thing. They're so fun. Like, that's the thing that's hard to explain to people. Like,
I
no,
give you 9
they're
years,
fun.
and then you'll be wishing you could lose them.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
that's the one thing where I'm like, we'll see. Cause I'll hear 9, maybe 8 out of 10 parents will say that have teenage girls that are like, oof, rough. And then you'll get 1 or 2 that are like, actually, mine's not bad at all. And like from 14 to 17, didn't have any issues. We're still really close, but the majority of her like, oh, you're gonna have some issues. So
I didn't know what to expect. We had a lot of emotions. We were very emotional. I didn't have a lot of rebellion. I didn't get a lot of I hate you, you're gross. But everything was like, what do you mean? We don't have any granola. Yeah, like everything was
tantrum.
and Nicole, like I will confess that with my first daughter, like I was really late, really late. Like she just wasn't getting born. I later learned it's because she had a head the size of Rhode Island and there was no way that was coming through, right? But I finally, my doctor, I went in for a checkup. I was like 6 days past my due date. And my doctor said, we can let it go a little bit longer, but we can also induce. And I was like, listen, I'm a Capricorn. I don't think I can handle a Gemini. So like, if we could bring this child in under the Taurus wire, I feel like, Capricorn, Taurus, that would be awesome.
Yeah.
My doctor, to her endless credit, took that batshit crazy in and went, oh, okay. Well, what is the deadline to get a Taurus baby? And I was like, I got to get this kid. I got to bring this kid over the line by May 19th. And that was her birthday is May 19th.
Oh my gosh, that's amazing.
So I feel you, dog. I do. But when you get a child, because I was like little Hermione Granger. Like, what rules do we have here so that I can memorize them and follow them? Also, is there any extra credit that I can do, right?
Absolutely. That was me. Yeah.
I was not prepared for any kind of hell raising. I wouldn't have known where to begin with it.
I mean, Everly's the one who's going to be turning over conference tables. You know what I mean? The good news is like, she'll probably be a CEO if I do my job right. Or she's going to end up running a drug ring. It's going to be one of the two. Who knows what's going to happen? Because she is so determined. I remember the first time I saw a kid, we were at like a park, and this girl who was probably 6 and Everly was 3. Everly tried to play with her and tried to play with her blocks because it was like community blocks. And the little girl looked at her and goes, I don't want you to play with me. You're not pretty. And which, by the way, my daughter is gorgeous. So that's just, I mean, her dad looks like Jason Sudeikis meets John Krasinski. So, she's got
hello, genetics. It just is what it is.
Cute. But I was like, I felt that rage. And I'm like hitting Matt, who's my fiance. I'm hitting him, and I'm like, oh, and he's like, you need to calm down. And Everly just looked at her and she goes, "Oh, okay," and grabbed her blocks and moved along and sat somewhere else and played by herself. And I was like, "Oh, this is the gift." Because she was like, "I'm not." Now, granted, that might change when they start getting really mean in like second and third grade,
Yeah, yeah.
but the Teflon that she was, where she was like, "Yeah, okay, if you don't want to play with me, I don't care. I'm good by myself." And I'm like, "Yeah, why can't you play by yourself at the house though? You need."
Listen, I can promise you, I'll be scrolling the gram, I'll be on Instagram, and I'll come across a post from someone that was unkind to one of my daughters, like a peer, like another child. So my youngest daughter was in debate and competition dance.
Yeah.
You want to talk about a viper pit
Yeah.
of bad behavior. I'll come across one of those girls. Now, these girls are like, they're fine human beings, but a mother never forgets. So I'll be like, oh, Peyton, I see we don't have a functional mirror for that eyeliner. Like, I'm such a bitch. And Heather will tell you, Heather, am I ever that way? Like with
No.
anyone? No. I'm over here like, kumbaya, my lord.
Yeah, same.
Kumbaya. You show me some kid that did my one of my girls wrong or one of our four older ones wrong. And I'm like, yeah, I don't think so. One of them, I'm not going to name names. One of them was in a relationship and they broke up. And I deliberately did not unfriend this girl on any of my social media so that I could keep track of just how far downhill she's gone
Stalking.
since breaking his heart.
I would
Yeah.
do the same thing. Would do the same thing in a second. I'm out
Oh,
for
yeah.
blood, and I'm a comedian. So like, you're gonna
Girl.
come at my kid online. I would love. It's like you're heckling me. Like I would love it. I would love it.
Well, I used to, when I would see somebody like pushing my youngest around in the dance world, I would be like, perhaps you're unaware what Caramia's mommy does.
Yeah, I have a big voice that gets a lot of reach.
And child, I am never going to forget you and I'm going to hold this grudge forever. Meanwhile, like you could literally come kick me in my leg and I'm going to be like a social worker. I'm going to be like, well, you know what? We all have different experiences and we all process trauma differently. And is there any way that I can hug you?
Yeah.
You even cut your eyes at one of my kids.
Out for blood. Out for blood.
Yeah.
my
I'd like to apologize for that, but that would be fake. And
Yeah.
I'm not
I
gonna.
can't. I can't.
So, last really hyper personal question. How does Matt get along? How does Matt, the fiance, get along with Craig, the co parent?
So I talk about this in the special when they met for the first time. And I built it up in my head where I was like, they're going to love each other and they're going to exchange numbers and they're going to be like, hey, let's group effort this. It'll be great because Matt will be able to see that there's no love lost between Craig and I, and Craig will see that Matt isn't trying to take over as a parent, but that he's really good with Everly. And I was like, I can't wait for them to meet. And it took some time because we met in Dallas. And so he was flying out every other weekend. And then Craig travels for work. So it took us like 3 months for them to meet. And it was Craig's weekend. So Matt and I went to go pick up Everly. And I thought, this is the moment it's going to happen. We're all going to get on a group thread. We're going to have ideas about soccer and maybe piano. Oh my God, this is going to be great. And they looked at each other, shook hands, and said, hey, man, what's up? Hey. That was it. That was the exchange. We got our daughter and we left. Like so they get along fine and like they both respect each other. And I talked to Craig and Craig likes Matt and Matt likes Craig. Like it's great. And like Matt would never say anything bad or like he's always devil's advocate if I get frustrated, which isn't often. But yeah, they're just like, hey man, what's up? That's it. There's no like I built it so
We're not best friends. We're not going to be bros.
That sounds normal to me.
Well,
Yeah.
I will tell you, I've never talked about this on the show, but my children's father, so Kevin he's very chatty with me, but he's like the strong silent type, right? Like he just doesn't have a lot to say, doesn't do a lot of small talk. I mean, clearly, right?
Yeah.
So this is years ago. My children's father comes to me and he goes, how come Kevin's mean to me? And I was like, I don't think he's mean to you. I just, he's just not a real chatty person. So I said, Kev, can you work on that? Because he thinks you're being mean to him. Kevin was like, what grown man says that about another grown man? Like, what are we supposed to braid each other's hair? Like, what are we supposed to do? I think it's so different because like Kevin's
So then she makes me go sit on the damn couch for 3 hours
and watch the
watch the
Olympics
damn
with them.
Olympics while she goes and fixes another family crisis.
Yeah, I'm like, he thinks you're mean. Go sit and watch the Olympics with him. And Kevin's like, that's when I knew Kevin loved me, though. That was the moment. Like, you can say, like, girl, I love you, and here's some jewelry. But when he'll go sit with your ex-husband and children's father and watch the Olympics for 3 hours, that's actually true love.
Oh, I got 100 of those.
But it's different with women because Kevin's ex and I are like, we just tell each other everything. And she's like a second mom to my daughters. Like, we're super tight. But you know how men are. They're like, yeah, ooh, yeah. That's a conversation.
He's dated a couple girls, and like immediately I'm like, yes, love you. Let's do this. Because if my kid's going to be in your presence, we need to get to know each other. And then all of them have been really great. Like he has, he's got good taste in like relatable girls that aren't, bitchy, that are like pretty grounded. And so like one of them I've become really good friends with. And so I think it is just different for women because also him and Craig and Matt are total opposites. They're just two different people. And Matt is also the strong silent type. So he doesn't have a lot to say. He's also a homebody. He just likes to putter around the house, where like Craig's more like, let's go out, let's socialize. And so it's just very different. Yeah. So we
don't have hormonal problems and stuff like that when we're single.
Oh yeah.
All my hormonal problems started when I got married.
Rational, just always logical, just always making decisions based on pure reason and nothing else. Love. Yeah. I will say that it is different with women because I adore my children's father's wife.
Yeah.
I was texting her pictures tonight. Like, I love her and I'm crazy. Like Joni, his ex-wife, is like the sister I never got to have. But I think that as women, I don't know whether we're socialized this way or it's biological, but like, you're with my children and I want to know you. I'm with your children. Don't you want to know me? Like, don't you want to know who's with your kids?
Yeah. Like whenever there's like a news headline where it's like the stepmother did something to the kids to spite, I'm like, oh no, we're going to be best friends. And I want you to know that I'm always on your side. But I also want you to know I will murder you if you lay a hand on my
necessary. Yeah.
Necessary.
Like I reached out to Joni early on. We were going to take the boys. We were taking the two youngest and Carrie and Olivia on a spring break trip. And I reached out to her and said, hey, whatever your rules are, I'm going to follow them.
Yeah.
Just because it's when they're at our house, you're still mom, right? And that's the kind of thing you hope for as a mom. And I just firmly believe that you should put into the world whatever the hell it is you're hoping to receive back. You might not get it,
right?
But at least put it out into the world. It sounds like you're doing that.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, he's only dated one person and she was a lovely girl, but she definitely didn't have kids of her own. So she didn't get the mom roles. But like, and I talk about it in the special where she gave Everly her first braid. And I remember when she came home, like I'd been so excited to start braiding her hair because she was like so bald most of her life, like till she was like 2. And so she had just enough to do that little tiny fountain. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I was looking up how to French braid and I was like practicing on her Barbie. And I was like, oh, I'm going to get good at this. And then Craig dropped her off and I didn't see the girl behind him. And like Everly comes in and I'm like, oh, what a cute braid. Craig, did you do that? And he goes, oh no, she did. And I look up and the girl's standing behind him and I go, what? He goes, well, she thought it would be good to have her first braid. And I was like, oh, okay, so you should call the cops because it's about to get ugly, like.
Yeah.
But no, I make it much funnier. I'm not going to give it all away, but they broke up, so I won.
So as it should be, but I so get that because there's all the milestones that they have Hallmark cards for, but then there's all the milestones that are just in your heart.
Yeah.
Right. And it's hard to have that snatched away. But what you're doing by bringing, Matt and Craig and whoever Craig is with, by
Mhm.
bringing everybody together, you're just making Everly's world bigger and better.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah.
So, yeah,
And I'm excited to see where we're going to be in the next couple of years, like what's going to happen. So
you're going to have so much fun.
I'm
It's just
excited.
going to get more fun. They
I'm
get toilet trained and you'd be amazed at what happens when you're not having to beg them to eat and wipe their bottoms. Like all sorts of fun rolls in your direction. So shout out because we're running over and people have to get up for work. Tell everybody where they can watch Mama Drama.
Okay, it's on Apple TV or Amazon. You can go to my Instagram at Nicole Birch Comedy, and there's a link where you can pre-order it now. But yeah, it's Apple TV and Amazon. It's called Mama Drama. So
Mama Drama, Apple TV and Amazon. And don't forget, every comment in the stream tonight could win you a Bob and Sheri coloring book for exhausted adults. Nicole, come back on soon, okay? Because I'm
I
so
will.
excited
Thank
for
you
your
so
authentic
much.
drama.
I always love playing with you. Thank you so much.
We love having you. Cheers.
Bye,
Mama
Heather.
Drama, Apple TV and Amazon. There's your weekend. You're covered. Tomorrow on the regular show, the People's Movie Critic is reviewing Marcel the Shell with Shoes On, the documentary. And tomorrow's True Weird Stuff is called Shh, It's Mars. And we're going to take you to the red planet and you're going to hear some stuff that's going to blow your whole entire mind. So thank you for being with us tonight. Thank you, Nicole Birch.
Bye,
Cheers,
guys.
everybody. We'll see you next time for
Cheers.
happy hour.
Bye.